I'm Diego Rose, professor and director of Tulane Nutrition. What's a little bit different about me is that I'm a late academic. I did a lot of work, actually, even before I got to the PhD. I was a WIC nutritionist. I worked as a community organizer for senior mobile mini markets in California. I did work in Guatemala as a research assistant on iron fortification studies. All that was before the PhD program. And then when I finished, I actually spent 10 years after that doing different jobs before I got to Tulane. The entire focus of my work has been on food security and nutrition. How do we come to understand what that is? Access to a stable food supply that's healthy. How do we measure it? What are the consequences of not getting it? What's the impact for nutrition? How do you do something about it? So like you could, all of the different chapters of my career fit under that broad description. Chapter 1 was Economic Research Service at USDA, and that's when we did the work on measuring food security at a national level and looking at food assistance policies and their impact on households and kids. Chapter 2 was in Mozambique and sort of the international setting. What does it mean to do that? One of the interesting things about Mozambique is when I was there, there was not one university that had a program in nutrition. So there were no graduates in nutrition in Mozambique. And so a lot of what we worked on was how do you develop assessment techniques, rapid measures of nutritional assessment or food security assessment that can be implemented by paraprofessionals throughout the country. And so that was, and that kind of led to other work that I've done with the World Food Program. So that's sort of a chapter 2. Chapter 3 was coming to New Orleans. The first place I stayed was in Deming Hall for just a few weeks until I found housing. And I tried to cook a meal. I couldn't find any vegetables. There's just no place around here to get a store. So I had sort of personal instance of that. And that got me into thinking about the whole idea of food access and food deserts. And it was sort of the early days of that work. This is the early 2000s, and we put in a couple applications for grants before Katrina, and they both got funded, and then Katrina happened. And so that opened up a lot of work on mapping the food environment in New Orleans and looking at where there were disparities and why and what impacts those had on people's nutrition, what they chose to eat and their health. Chapter 4 was what's the connection between our diet and environmental impacts? You tend to think about environmental impacts like greenhouse gas emissions as coming from transportation or energy or construction sectors, but it turns out that agriculture, food systems in general, account for 1/3 of greenhouse gas emissions. And learning about that, I started wondering, okay, how do our diet choices impact that? Could we look at connecting dietary data with environmental impact data and come up with a carbon footprint of an individual's diet? What can you do as an individual if you're interested? Governments doesn't seem to be worried about climate change to improve the impact of or reduce the impact of your diet. And if you do that, is it also going to benefit your nutritional status? Well, it turns out in many ways it can. If you change what you eat in certain ways, it's better for your health and better for the planet. I think from the beginning, I've always thought it's important to engage students, keep it interesting. You kind of have to up your game a little bit now because the competition for their attention, where they go, what they do outside of the classroom is so much more vivid. I've been blessed with really great doctoral students. And I think one of the most important things as a mentor is to listen to them and try to understand where they are and try to get them to be positive about what they're doing. I think the most important thing, and this is for students, master's level students, doctoral students, and I think even junior faculty, most important thing is, can you wake up in the morning and feel positive about what you're doing and not worry so much about the exam or the paper or the deadline or this other thing, but just get into the day, be positive about what you're doing, and follow your passion. I think the next step really is, how do you communicate with the public? And I think I like to write, not for journal articles, although there'll still be articles coming out, but I want to do more writing for the public because I think people want to know about this, and we do a lot of science that gets in these books in here, but it doesn't get off the bookshelves and into people's consciousness. And so I'd like to write for a public audience. So much a part of my career is the love for my wife, Ilana Sherrill. I don't think I could have done what I've done if it wasn't for her. From the very first things that we did to, she was around from the time I graduated from Berkeley with a PhD. And she's the one who said, okay, I'll go with you to Washington, but I get the next choice. And that next choice was Mozambique, and it took me in a way that I probably wouldn't have gone. I definitely wouldn't have picked Mozambique. She picked it. It made sense for her because it's a Brazilian woman who wanted to work in Africa, and Mozambique was a Portuguese colony, so they spoke Portuguese, so it made sense for her to go there. But that opened my eyes in a way that I hadn't anticipated, and I think is like an invaluable part of who I am and what my career has become. And then, that's continued all the way through my dancing partner, my life partner. I mean, I do like to dance and I like to party, and so some of the best memories here are of parties or opportunities to dance. We formed our little sub-crew of faculty at graduation that dances.
Check it.
And then what else after this gig? Well, I want to spend more time with Ilana. We're going to travel, dance. I like to dance. We're going to keep on eating well and enjoying life.
Cool.